Welcome to Season 4 of the Knack for Business podcast.
Question for the audience. Are you feeling called to evolve in your business or your career, but you're stuck between who you used to be and who you're meant to become? That's what our guest will dive into today. She'll share how conscious reinvention helps you realign your work with your purpose without burning everything down or starting over from scratch. If you're ready to build a solid, more soul-aligned, fulfilling next chapter, stick around with us and lean into this conversation. Our guest today is Camille Miller from Soul Professional Movement. She's earned an MBA and a PhD with an ABD, is a strategic advisor who helps visionary leaders and organizations move through conscious reinvention with clarity and purpose. She's the founder of the Global Soul Professional Movement, bringing together decades of business strategy, nonprofit leadership, and psychology with intuitive insight to guide purpose-driven individuals and mission-led teams through aligned, soul-centered transformation. Camille is known for recognizing what's possible before others see it, helping her clients redefine success, realign with their purpose, and create meaningful impact without burning out or feeling they need to start over, turning wisdom into wealth and vision into action. Camille, absolute pleasure having you here today. Welcome. And do you have a favorite quote or saying you'd like to share with us?
Favorite quote. Well, I have one that I have right in front of me. I don't know who said it though. It said, "What if it turns out way better than you could have imagined?" It's more of a question that I put there
Yeah,
in front of me. It's not a quote.
powerful.
Yeah, I keep it so I look at it every day.
So, what was the first experience that said, success needed redefining in your own life? Like, what made you come to the realization, have that soulful breath of life come through from where you
Well,
were once upon a time?
yeah. So my background was always in not-for-profit management. So I was always a part of helping others, giving in the world. How do we give back? So that's always been who I am. But it was when I stepped down from a CEO position. Actually, I didn't step down. We lost funding from a CEO position that I had in 2015, and I was kind of figuring out what is next for me in the world. But I was working in food and agriculture, and I absolutely loved my work. But I felt for the first time that who I was dovetailed with what I did in the world. Like I felt like my professional life was part of how I show up authentically. And it made me realize that before that in corporate, I really didn't. Like I put on a persona to make everyone think that I was someone to fit in and play the role and do it. So as I moved forward, I was like, well, how can I help others be more authentic and, be show up who they are in the world? But now, 10 years later, I think that is really where life is going, right? I'm in the US, I should say, and, we're seeing just drastic changes in life in general. Right. But I think it's more important. We're seeing more people step down from corporate positions or reach the ranks and just go, well, this doesn't make my heart sing. Like how can I have more purpose and more impact and make it global? And I think that's a big part of the soul professional movement. It's about, solo entrepreneurs, what I call micro entrepreneurs. They make less than $1 million. They're never going to have big teams and corporations. Those are the ones with the olive branches that are going across borders and saying, how can I support you? How can I help you? How can I, allow your truth to become, more seen in the world? And that's really where all of that came from. I have an ability to create community and people follow me. So that's what I did in the world.
I am far too vain, even though it's accurate, to relate to micropreneur. That even though it really fits, I can't allow it. But I really, really like what you're saying. And to use that overused word authentic, you say it without it sounding like a brand. You're living it, and that excites me. I was living it when I painted you as a flake. Not you. I mean, anyone who, yeah. Try again, Wayne. I hear saying here, I really
I feel an edit coming up here.
leave it in. It's authentic. I really like
Yes.
conscious reinvention. Tell me about that. Unpack that.
Well, most of my clients and people that joined me were originally in that like midlife phase, right? That transformation. It was usually between, I would say, like 48 to 62. But now I have 30-year-olds, like, and 40-year-olds, and people are just going like, "I'm not even doing that route." Like, I'm stepping into who I am now. So, I kind of dropped the midlife because I've literally had people go like, "I really wanted to work with you, but I'm not midlife yet." And I'm like, "I gotta drop that because" right? But it's really just transformation. So we are reinventing ourselves. And honestly, all of us reinvent ourselves over and over. I think personally, every decade is a reinvention, right? Because we're growing and we're learning. And, who I am, I'm 58. Who I am at 58 is much different than who I was at 28 or 38 or even 48, right? So, and probably very different than who I'll be at 68. So, we're always reinventing, but making it conscious is really like leaving your legacy in the world. You're going to leave one anyway. You might as well be intentional about it. So, what do we want this to look like?
It almost sounds like you're wearing a suit or a uniform, and you realize, I'm looking for an update on my uniform or my suit or my appearance, even a haircut. And you see that every once in a while. In the teen years, you really see it a
It's
lot,
true.
right? You're
Yeah.
experimenting. What do you think? What do you think has triggered people to go, I got to change it because, yeah, I feel dissatisfied. Sometimes you'll change it and you go, yeah, that wasn't it either, right? Because, I want to try skydiving, and you're up in the plane going, yeah, not so much so now. Yeah, once you actually see the drop,
Yeah.
how do you help them? How do you help them go? Yeah, here's a good transition. It's going to be a good fit.
Yeah. I think it's gradual. And I think when people are in a space where it doesn't feel good, they know it doesn't feel good, or they're like, "I know I'm meant for bigger things," or "I'd really like to do this in the world." So they start to explore it. I think that's how it starts, right? I help people more. I have an online class called Corporate to Calling, but it's really about finding your purpose. It's about assessing who are you in the world? Who do you want to help, right? Where are your strengths? Because we all have different ones, right? And then how do we show up authentically? I think it began actually before the pandemic, but the pandemic made it real. Right, when we were all stuck in our houses, or here in the U.S., I'm in New Jersey in the U.S., and our commutes just normally were an hour and a half to our job, hour and a half back, right? So a lot of people were like, "Screw that, I'm not doing that anymore." Like, I didn't realize that being home with my family or my kids or what happens, right? Or, being able to cut my lawn in the middle of the day and not just on Saturday, and having that change was the first step to it. A lot of people didn't go back to corporate jobs. Like, as soon as they were called back, they're like, "Yeah, no, this is not how I want to live my life." So I think that was the first step. But each year, now we're 5 years out of that, not out since the beginning, we're becoming more authentic. But I think as a society, we're becoming more nurturing, we're becoming more collaborative, a lot more feminine energy, not on gender, but just coming together and seeing, how can we help and support people, not just here and my neighbors, but people all over the world. And that's part of the movement, which I'm starting to realize isn't just in business, it's a lifestyle, right? It's who we are becoming that's important. And then how do we dovetail all of that into our work and how we show up every day, right? The small changes. For me, I've been more authentic, but when we talk about, like, I don't even own suits anymore, I just gave them all away. Like, there is no shot in hell of me ever putting one back on again, right? That's just not who I am, but I do have a lot of tie-dye. I don't always wear it out. I don't wear it on camera, but I love tie-dye, but also, like, I don't dye my hair anymore. I was like, "I'm going gray." You know why? Because that's who I am. I'm 58 years old, my hair's gray, I don't give right? So, it's just showing up with, who I am in the world and being proud, but I believe everyone is doing that, So I'm just leading the movement going, yeah, we can do this. We can do it better. Knowing your strengths in the world, right? Your unique genius. I don't believe in competition because each one of us are different. So how are we showing up in a way that when people need your services or kindness, that they know that you're the person they need, right? It's being authentic. I don't even
Being
know what
in
the
that
question was.
being in that studies crowd, I always loved the outliers, and now you can actually pay to have gray put in, and they call it streaks. I love it. We were there first.
Yes.
Now, one thing
Yep.
I'd love your feedback on that I get a kick out of, you meet people in the middle and they reach coach, they want to be coached, and they're either had just given up or want to give up. They're mid six-figure job. They have 8 people report to them. They run a division, maybe $5 million, and they say, "I wanna go make salad bowls." And you go, "Really? Salad bowls? I understand woodworking, but is that really the best use of your gifting?" How do you talk about burning it down. How do you keep them from going into that, crafter mentality where they're not using their skills, they're just escaping? And that's my goofy question for the
So,
day, honest.
yeah, yeah. So if you want to make salad bowls, you go make salad bowls. Right? Because, well, when I work with someone, we're assessing how are you showing up, right? But most people, you can actually trace back who they were to their childhood because you always show up authentically all of your life. You just didn't think you could make money doing that. So school or society has put you in this other place, right? But it's really not who we are. So it's how are we showing up? It's just like when my kids get out of college, I've kind of allowed them to wander in their 20s and I try to support them because I was like, whatever you studied may be it, but it may not be. And you didn't learn everything that you needed to know because you don't learn it until you get out of school, right? So, and I have 3 kids and one stayed in their lane. The other 2, like 360s, like totally just went in other directions. And they're like, "What do I do?" And I was like, "So go back to school. Like, go study that." Right? Because it's our lives that put us in situations that we know. Like, I ended up in the not for profit world. I had a psychology degree and hated counseling, right? Came out with the counseling psychology and I was like, there is no shot in hell of me doing this. I hate it. And I volunteered my time at a nonprofit and someone said, they pay people to actually do nonprofit work. I was like, you shitting me? So I applied for the job, got it, and that was my career for decades. So, and I would have never studied that in school. I didn't even know that was a thing, right? And you don't know what's a thing until you're there, or you don't know that it makes your heart sing until you're doing it. So it's really just being conscious of what you like to do in the world. Like I always say, this is my big question I always ask. If you were to win the lottery today, what would you get up and do tomorrow? Right? If money's not your motivator, what would you get up and do? And if you say, I'm going to quit my job, you are not in alignment. So you really, that's a really important answer. And my father told me that or asked me that question when I was a teenager. So it's something that has always guided me.
When you are a person who's going through life, and sometimes it's called scope creep, doing project management. I'm here and is veering off from where here is in my happy spot. So over
Yeah.
time, the first months or years, yeah, not so bad. And then 20 years in, you go, something's not right. What are the tells? What are the indicators that someone should be going, hang on, let's put the brakes on for a second. Let's reevaluate. Whether
Yeah.
it's salad bowls as the end result, or maybe I'll just get into sorting out wood and not making the salad bowl, and then balancing it out with what will sustain me at the same time. So finding something I like to do and something that can keep me going, and not necessarily make the million plus club, but just sustain business.
Yeah.
Well, tell us.
Well, one, it has to feel good to you, right? So if you love making salad bowls, then you should be making salad bowls, right? Remember, there's a multimillionaire out there that came up with the toothpick, right? So like you never know where life is bringing you, so just allow it to happen.
Yeah, but what's the trigger though that makes you go, okay, here comes the toothpick. So let's get off the pony that's going over here that
Yeah.
hammers the nails
So
into the wall.
sometimes where we start is not where we finish, right? Because we're growing as people, right? The business I had 10 years ago is not the business I had today, but my mission is exactly the same. So in the nonprofit world, we call it mission creeping. And when I'm coaching people, I say that's going wide, right? You're getting out of your lane. And it's like when people are getting, this certification, that certification, I can do this and I can do that and I can do this. And I'm just like, you're getting too wide. Like, what is one thing? Who are you? You should be able to tell me in one sentence. What do you do in the world? Right? My mission had always been helping other people bring their gifts to the world. That was my mission. Right. And it's how do I do it? And sometimes I had to go back and say, okay, am I going off on a tangent? I had a podcast for 9 seasons. I ended up closing it. because I loved doing it, but it had run its course to help my mission. Because I was letting people come, it was called Six Figure Souls, doing good and making money. Because so many people during the pandemic, especially, wanted to do good in the world, but they felt guilty making money doing it. Right. So I wanted to show and highlight stories. Now I don't have to do that anymore. But it's with anything, you have to say, is this aligned? Does it feel good in my body or am I in resistance? Right. I always teach clients about almost intuition. True. Like I have a class after this that we're just talking about intuition for the whole time. Right. How do we know in our body, if we're using our body as a gauge, if this is a right move for you or it is a wrong move for you? Right. If it feels not good, like not in flow, not like, oh, I'm so happy and joy, and I just know that this is the right best move for me, that's what you want to follow. But if you're in a place of resistance, like I can't stand doing this, I hate it, but I have to do it because this is how I make money in the world. Right? You're in resistance and that is not good. It's how do we pivot out of that so you're in alignment again? Right? I've test things. That's how I do it. That's how I tell my clients to do it. Right? I had a very large membership, very large international membership at one time. And last year, I actually closed the entire thing down. And it was my main revenue generator. And I was like, it just doesn't feel good anymore. This isn't what I really wanted to create. And I made it all free. It's still free today. Not my time, but everything else I did in there is free. And I put all of my basic business classes on YouTube for free. And I do that because my mission was to help other people bring their gifts to the world, right? So I teach a soul aligned business and put it on YouTube for free. It was not to make billions of dollars. That wasn't my mission. That could be a byproduct of what I do, but it's not my mission. So it's always, how do I go back to my mission? And does it feel good for me? That felt good for me to let my membership, because I had built it 10 years prior and it no longer felt in alignment. Having hundreds of people pay me lots of money every month to be in my world was great, but I didn't know them. I wasn't actually helping them, right? In a way that felt good to me anymore. When I started it worked a lot differently. But where we came, like where we ended up, is not where I wanted to be. So I was like, I'm just scrapping the whole thing. I'll rebuild. And that's what I did. Now that comes with a big revenue hit, by the way, but it's just doing it.
Wouldn't you have just sold the sorry, uh, I get the change, and I get why the
Yeah.
change. Wouldn't you have just sold the business intact to someone else that would have aligned to them,
Yes.
as an option? And this is just me
For some
left
people,
field.
that could have been an option. It was not my option because I own the Soul Professional brand and it's not where I wanted it to go. So I deconstructed it. So I will create it. So it is the brand I want it to be before I spin it off. Or I have no plans of spinning it off yet, but I will build that brand back up how I want that brand to be, which is
It
more global and more collaborative now.
almost sounds like a little origami, moment happening here. It's the same piece of paper, just it's, something new.
Yeah, I'm refolding it. Yeah. But the brand, I mean, we could talk about brand all day. I really wanted the brand to show up differently. So yeah, that was a part of it.
In your messaging, it's Camille L. Miller, Soul Professional, and both soul and professional are both capitalized. And I'm interested in soul can be several things and has different meanings to different people, some divine, some secular. Where's soul professional in your mind?
Okay. Well, soul professional is actually a trademarked word, and that's why they're both capitalized. And we define a soul professional as someone who lives in a higher vibration, has an alternative approach to business, and is here to help repair the world. And there's a whole movement behind it. You can sign a pledge to be a good global citizen. And there's over 10,000 people in 30 countries that are a part of it. Yeah. So it's pretty
Congratulations.
cool. And it's all free.
Congrat It almost sounds, as we've discussed this and as we're going along, and then again,
Mhm.
basically do good, but do good that, feels good to you also. So it almost sounds like what a non-for-profit does. Is that kind of
Absolutely.
is that kind of the genesis then from Soul
Yes.
Professional?
Yeah. It was actually designed just like a nonprofit, because that was my roots.
Yep.
Right? I have an advisory board and a leadership team. Everyone's volunteer that works. We do accept donations if you want to help with the movement. It's not a 501c3, So it's not a legal nonprofit entity. And I did that on purpose because, at least in the United States, I don't know about international nonprofits, as I only specialized in the United States. I chose very consciously not to make it a nonprofit, but a business that gave back. So I could choose how that's done. When you have a nonprofit, you have a board, and me as the founder can be voted out.
Mhm.
Right? So it may create that. And at some point, the idea is also to create a foundation off of it. So we can do good in the world more than we're already doing, I should say.
So you mentioned YouTube. There's obviously internet. How about books? I think you've got a couple of titles.
I got 3 that are already out. And those were a series, 1, 2, and 3. So it's called My Ultimate Guide series. The first one is called The Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Soul-Aligned Entrepreneur. No, it's not. I'm lying. The first one's called The Ultimate Guide to Creating Your Soul-Aligned Business. The second one is called Your Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Soul Professional. And the third one is called The Ultimate Guide to Leaving Your Legacy. And there are 1, 2, 3. How do you create the business? How do you grow the business? How do you leave your legacy in the world? So there were 1, 2, 3. Those were all collaborative books. I did a lot of writing in those. And then I had other people come and contribute. And they were each answering that same question, like how they built their business and then what had to change when they grew their business, and then about leaving their legacy in the world. So that's what's out there right now. I'm writing a solo book right now, that I don't know when it'll be out, probably next year sometime. I'm working with some publishers, deciding what I'm going to do. And that's called The Rise of the Soul Professional. So it's all about the paradigm shift that's happening in the world right now and the movement.
So when you're talking about finding the new identity, the new happy spot for you to function at to someone you're talking to, how do you open the door so that it's not like a sudden shock of cold water from a fire hose pushing it back against the wall to, yep, that's right, it becomes graduated. How do you leverage them into that space without them going through a shock and awe moment, like they just got hit by a blitzkrieg?
Yeah. So most of the time, by the time they found me, they have already been a curious explorer in the world. Right. They are going through their own spiritual awakening. They felt like they had a piece of themselves they didn't bring to the world. So usually by the time they found me, they're in my light for a reason. How we do it is in my business school. I have a business school called the Soul Professional Business School. I have the Business Accelerator and a mentorship where it's a 14-week program. It's my signature program. I'm helping people with concept all the way to launch, right? So we use it as a business incubator. But for the first 3 weeks, we talk about intuition and your skills in the world and who you want to help. Like, we spend 3 weeks deciding who you are in the world and how you're going to show up. And I bring them through a lot of these soul searching exercises before we start the creation of what that looks like. And, those are kind of awakening for many, many people. Yeah.
Being a coach, I understand how they can get to you. I really do. One thing that I would like to see is the journey shortened between this is the noise in my head and I'm talking to Camille. What are some cheat sheets or some card decks or some websites or how do you get them from I'm comfortably unhappy to I need to explore quicker?
Well, they have to be willing to explore. That's the first thing. A lot of people just sit in their head of this is impossible. People don't do it this way. I'll never make money doing that. Like, they sit in that gunk for a long time. So I have created, I'm trying to think when, maybe last year, because I knew there was a disconnect before they were willing to invest. From the time they're curiously exploring to the time where they're going to invest a lot of money to an incubator. So I created a very inexpensive online course. It originally was expensive, but now it's not. I brought it down to $97. It's called Corporate to Calling. Manifesting the life and business of your dream in 15 minutes a day. And every single day for 28 days, you get a 5-minute video from me. And I bring you through a question. I give you the background of why. And over 4 weeks, we design actually all of it. So now you've done all of the thinking, all of the assessing, all of your core values, right? And you started to outline things completely on your own. And people can bring that journal to me and work with me personally. They can go to the business accelerator. They can try to wing it on their own. Like there's so many things, but it just allows people to explore in their own time, kind of self-paced. And they still get me every single day. And
How do
they
we get
don't
that
have to
on
do
late
it in 20. Sorry, go ahead.
How do we get that on late night television instead of the steak knives? That's gotta be there. I don't want ShamWow, I want you.
I would love to have a TV show. You
So
never know. It'll all come.
are you in different, you were doing podcasting before, you
Uh,
now have courses, you have a couple of spaces that are open for people
yeah.
to come in and
Yep.
communities. What other mediums are you using to reach to people? Do you do live events? Do seminars, webinars, that stuff?
So 100% of my brand is word of mouth. I've never spent money on anything. I do free master classes every single month that anyone can come and learn from me. Those are the recordings I put on YouTube, right? So if you want to show up live and ask your own question, you can. I also do networking for everyone all over the world. We have to add another one in 2026 because we're in so many time zones right now. That's becoming an unbelievable issue. We are also, going to do in person, which is really, I don't know how we're going to pull this off, but that's what people are asking for. And that's where we started 10 years ago. So I have the books, I guest on podcasts. I do 5 or 6 a month guesting on other people's podcasts. I just did a collaboration with a media company here in the United States called Restless Urban. I am their sole adventurer, and I will be writing, just about me. I have a newsletter on LinkedIn that goes out every single week, and that's literally me just writing about what happened this week. And sometimes it's my exploration, it's a realization, it's a client story, it's so many different things. But to keep people thinking, and of course, I'm on shows and stuff like that. So people find me. I also speak a lot. So I've been hired to speak, to teach, to do workshops, retreats. I don't do my own retreats. I don't know if I probably never will. That doesn't bring me joy to lead a retreat. I do what's called soul adventures though. Anyone want to meet me in Europe and go explore different cultures? I do that once a year in June.
Wow. There's a contact we have, and she's in Italy, the Rosetto effect. And that's what it's a lifestyle, right? And it's all about family, et cetera. And you said like it's around 10,000 people that are in that
30
space,
countries. Yeah,
30
across
countries.
30 countries. Yeah.
How do you handle language barriers?
Everyone speaks English and we work on New York time in US
That's
dollars. That's just it.
well, that simplified it. Yeah, that's pretty quick and easy.
I
Yeah.
had to figure that out really early. And I also learned that a lot of other people run on New York time. And I asked
Well, we
people,
call
and
it
a lot of
Toronto.
people are like, we have US bank accounts. And I'm like, so I just happen to live on the East Coast that can manage all of this. Right. So it actually has worked out really beautifully.
Excellent.
Those of us in other countries call it Eastern Standard Time. It's
Yeah.
actually the same time, but honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. Everyone speaks English. I'm sure they speak a lot of other language too. We run everything in English.
You were given a magic wand and you actually got an opportunity to actually transform how business is done. Not a little, not one at a time, not when it works, but you're actually going to transform the North American business world. We'll say North America because it's one culture.
It's you and I. Go ahead.
How do we, what does it look like?
Collaboration for one, nurturing and honoring people exactly as they are in the world. I think back, I just wrote an article on this. When I grew up in the 80s, there was this greed culture here in the US, right? A
Gecko,
greed culture.
Gordon
Right?
Gecko.
Yeah. So that culture doesn't really exist anymore. I think people are holding on to it. But yesterday was election day here in the US, and I think that wave just passed. But a very, I think times are changing when we're seeing people as global. I always said, like, I raised global citizens, but I wasn't one. I've actually learned more from my children and having to open. And honestly, the pandemic for me was really a gift because I got to jump on Zoom and meet people all over the world, which I still get to do to today. But it kind of opened up and went, oh my God, you're me. You're just over there, right? I'm a single mom, but I see single moms everywhere. So I think not just North America, by the way, I think the whole global world, my hope is that we will become a global nation. I think we have a couple decades to go, but I would love for us to move in that direction. But I do honestly believe that it starts with the sole professional movement. And the idea of it, the first pledge we make is to be a good global citizen and to collaborate over competition, right? To honors people's culture across borders, right? And one of the things we're rolling out is going to be called global conversations. Like,
Ooh,
what
I like that.
conversations do we need to be having as micro entrepreneurs that are moving all over the world, right? So that's what we're
How do
looking
you guide that? Having global conversation, and I get it, right? Like what's happening in your space, what's your point of view, but how do you guide it so that not that you're smarter than the other person, but there's fruit from the labors. It's one thing to realize, everybody over here likes blue cars, everybody over there likes white cars, everybody over there likes green
at.
cars. Whether it's food or whatever it is, and that's regional. But how do you help guide the conversation so that you understand there's a common element
Yes.
everybody lives, but not
Yeah.
everybody sees that common element, and sometimes you need someone to shine a light on it. Not in a
Yeah.
harsh way, not like you're like a parent to child, but how do you open that eye to see more so the intuition can drink more from the cup?
Yeah. So it's really about putting the right people in a room. So when I talk about global conversations, the way that I actually have a meeting about it tonight. It's putting people from all over the world together. And it's going to be more of a panel discussion where we bring experts in on it, but not just me and you or three people or four people. Like, I'm talking a panel, and we're going to have bigger discussions. It doesn't have to be politics. It could be culture. It could be food. Spiritual will be a big part of it. Do we all see it in the same way? Quantum physics, just talking about things that we experience as humans and how do we experience them all over the world, right? So it's not a political show at all. It's just helping people realize that we actually are all the same. And that's pretty much it.
In my last job, I ended up encountering a person from another culture, another country. The person was there and doing their thing. Everything's fine, but the pain points that they were experiencing were the same pain points, and it doesn't matter where you're from, whether you're from North America, whatever. I'm just sitting there going,
Yes.
"Yeah, you know what? You go through that too." Well, it makes
Yeah.
sense, obviously, but it's like it just the light bulb came on, right? So
Yeah.
you just observing the behaviors and going, "Yep, happy about that, not happy about that." Yeah, I'd be the same. I totally get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the pandemic helped me realize that now that we can, with 24-hour TV and news, you see so much about what's happening around the world. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, those people are me. Right. When you see, the Ukraine war was a big one, just seeing moms holding their children and running. And I was like, "Oh my god, I can't even imagine that happening to me." Right? So that's where you're just like, "Oh my god." But we didn't see it before, and I think that changes everything. I think TikTok also changed my life because, a while back before they changed it more, it's an American version now, we don't really see everything anymore. Seeing people all over the world and them telling us what they think of us was really eye-opening, but amazing too, right? And seeing how they view us and what's happening because we're sheltered. People think that we're kind of freer than we are. We're sheltered. We don't see any of that. So it was really interesting to be like, oh, no wonder they want to take TikTok from America, stuff like that. So it's just learning. That's very political. We probably won't have those conversations, but it also brings up conversations that maybe we should be having, right? And just having the conversation, not answering the question, just having open discussion, not coming to, well, this is the way it's going to be, or, right? It's just, what do you see? What do I see? And having people on the panel. We've picked three people. I don't know if it should be 3 or 4 or 5 and guess, like, we haven't really decided.
Infotainment seems to
Tainment.
thread in to this a little bit. Can you see a world where solopreneurs are actually spending one night on a channel where they can be doing have more instead of NCIS?
Sure. I mean, they have Gaia TV right now. They have stuff like that right now. That's where I spend a lot of my time. Seeing, but I study it. I study more of my things from the science perspective. That's what I love to see because a lot of that has been shielded, like even quantum physics and spirituality and the science actually behind spirituality is fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating to me. So I do spend a lot of time, but it's hard to find. I feel like it's more sheltered. It could just be here. I don't actually know, but I love it.
I don't think you're I think it's more I certainly don't think it's just US. So, tell me about this school. This sounds more exciting than Harvard. Tell me more.
So I am a former MBA professor. And in that role, I realized that we're not actually teaching what people need to know today. We were still learning. I was still teaching the same stuff I learned in the 80s. Well, actually, 90, I graduated. So, and I was like, this is not helpful at all. Most of us will not be billion dollar CEOs, right? I taught a global business strategy, which was really interesting because I got to teach culture and I brought people in from all over the world. And it just made me go, okay, but where are the solo entrepreneurs in the world, right? So when you look at entrepreneurship or a major in entrepreneurship, it's product. And it's 5 million and above. And that's why I use the word micro, because micro actually means under 5 million. People making under 5 million, I think micro is a little smaller when I talk about it. But there really isn't anything, even in our education system, at least here in the US, that teaches you to go out on your own and start a business. Nowhere. If you get something in entrepreneurship, it's product, not service. So I was like, we're missing it in the world. Let me bring it here. So in my business accelerator, we literally we take each week to go through like the mission, the vision, the value proposition, branding, messaging, like all the way through client funnels, your writing, how like everything, consumers, everything that I would normally teach, like in the curriculum, but I do it through a soulful lens, right? Like I said, we spend the first 3 weeks talking about you. How does it show up for you? How does it show up in your body? Do you have intuition? Do you know things, right? So that's a big part of it. And that's really who's drawn to me, right? And the soul professional comes from people that were in the professional world, but they didn't recognize their soul side. So we can still be professionals. We are professionals. We're just lending credibility to who we are in the world.
So, if this resonates, how do we connect with Camille?
So the best way is to go to my website. It's soul, SOUL, professional.com. From there, you can pretty much learn about the movement, the business school, me and my personal services, the YouTube channel. Everything is from there. You can also link with me on LinkedIn to get that newsletter is actually separate. So that's the only social media I'm really on is LinkedIn.
I want to say thank you so much for being here today. You, Wayne Pratt, being the co-host, appreciate it. But more importantly, you, the Knack for Business listeners, we appreciate your time. So Camille supports a lot of people, and some people have followed the right rules for success, and then all of a sudden find out, something's not quite right, and there's something a bit more in life. Well, you know what? If that's your case, and if you're kind of scratching the old noodle here trying to figure things out, reach out to her. She has a lot of different resources that are available, and kind of just take a walk. And it's not on the wild side; it's your side, and don't get exhausted in the process. And that's kind of why you'd want to say hi to Camille.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVISIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter u.ca, or his website, motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host, Jovan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space, then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner, and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You, Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer. Please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.